Hello, Minecrafters and Redstoners. I'm Natanis Likens, and today we are in a creative world that is in Snapshot 23W31A. The reason we are here is we are looking at the experimental features because this was covered by somebody else's video when it was released, and they had good things to say about it. Well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and tell you that the changes in the experimental stuff is absolute garbage. I don't know why they would even say things are good, especially considering they had zero reasoning. And you are going to hear a bit of passion from me on this because some of the experimental things are absolutely stupid. And let me reiterate that. Some of these experimental changes are absolutely stupid. Okay, first off, let's talk about the bundle, because the bundle's in there. I don't know how long the bundle has been around. You can see that I have one right here in my inventory, and it holds a whopping 64 items. 64 items, huh? That's all it holds. So this can hold an entire stack of one item. So now I've got a bundle that has an entire stack of an item taking up a slot. And if I want this out, now it's taking up 2 slots. Why do I even have the bundle? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. That is retarded. Now, I will say that you can... Well, if I can do this right. You can put smaller amounts of stuff in there and hold multiple items, but at that point I'm kind of wondering why. What is even the point of doing that? You've got less than a full stack in there, so what is it even worth? Is it possibly something that you can put in the various garbage items that you find in loot sources, such as suspicious sand and all of that? Is that what it's for? Well, maybe it's for clearing out chests and in cities, or putting stuff in it from the deep dark cities, deep dark ruins. Yeah, yeah, maybe. Well, no, because there's a giant problem with that, and I don't know if this has been around long enough that they've even said anything about fixing it. And that is, if we go and we put any kind of tool in there, you can see, or any armor, you can see that it takes up the entire space in the bag, and that's anything. We can click on multiples of these, and it does exactly the same thing. It takes up the entire bundle spacing. And the bundle is supposed to be one of the items that helps with inventory management, because a lot of big YouTubers whine about this constantly. Like, come on, quit whining already. This bundle right now, as it stands, it's worthless. Like, I don't like it at all. So now, some of the modded versions of the bundle work absolutely wonderfully. What's in Minecraft right now in the snapshot is kind of terrible. Like, I don't get it at all. And even then, carrying around multiple bundles, I don't really see the point of, because then you just get that all kinds of mixed up, and then you got to go and take that and sort it. So I'm not really fond of how the bundle is shaping up to work. The alternative I could see with the bundle is having a set of slots over here on the side of your character screen or your inventory screen, and then you can just load up bundles there, which give you extra rows inside your inventory. Well, while that does sound nice, I feel like that's the whole World of Warcraft, bag problem. wherein they keep giving you new bags that have bigger sizes, so you fill up your inventory even more. Then you start complaining about the bag size. They give you new, bigger bags, but they also give you more things that you have to carry around. So you whine about the bag space and the inventory management. So then they give you another bigger bag, and the cycle repeats. Okay, we need to break that cycle and just stop it. So you guys that you big YouTubers that are complaining about inventory management, um, stop, because you're not going to help the situation. You're going to make it worse, especially if they start making stupid little things like this bundles bag that really doesn't even work that well. Um, the real fix for inventory management is the influencers. The influencers need to shut up about it and just deal with it and work with it. That way, they're not causing trouble for Mojang by having all their fans go to Mojang and say, "Hey, increase this, do that." Just shut up. All you influencers just need to shut up and not worry about that and let Mojang kind of figure things out. As far as Mojang, um, if they are working on stuff like this, they really need to use their brains a little bit more, because this is not going to work. This whole system here, it's terrible, to be perfectly honest. Because then you've got a whole bunch of bundles in your inventory, and you got to empty those, so you've just got a whole mess of different items. It's not actually fixing the inventory management problem. It's actually going to make it worse, because then you're going to have multiple inventories that are all sorts of messed up and nothing is sorted. Um, so really, that's not going to work. The best option is honestly the worst option, and that is doing exactly what I said, following the World of Warcraft example of having slots here for bags that increases your inventory space. And again, like I said, that leads to the whole problem of players complaining that they don't have enough space. They make bigger bags. You have to go get bigger bags. What's the point of the older bags? And then you've got the same issue again, where they increase the amount of items you can carry and build with. So players start whining about needing bigger bags. They make bigger. It's just a whole mess. The only way to break that entire cycle is for the players to realize they're just going to have to deal with multiple items in their inventory, and to get the influencers to shut the hell up. Basically, that's it. Now, on to the real meat of this. One of the changes they are doing is with Enchanted Books. And more specifically, we are talking about librarians and that whole mechanic. Because with the way that librarians and getting enchantments to enchant your tools and your weaponry work as of right now, it is a little bit broken. Even I will admit this. It is very, very broken. And they're looking for a way to fix that. Well, the fix that they've come up with is behind me, and I don't see this as a good fix. This is a horrible idea. So their idea is to split up all the enchantments into different biomes. So you will find some enchantments in a desert, some enchantments in a jungle, and then in a plains, a savanna, a snow biome, a swamp, and a taiga. And that is how they are splitting it up. And there are, with all the different biomes there are, like two of these villages don't even naturally spawn, and what they're saying is you're going to have to build your own village inside there. I do not like this mechanic. I think what we have right now, yes, it is a little bit broken, but it does work. This, splitting up all the enchantments into different biomes, is going to be a much bigger pain. And what's actually going to happen with this is you're going to see influencers and players going out, getting these particular trades that they need to have all of the trades, and then wasting time trying to get all of these different villagers into a centralized area. One of the most common things I've seen in the multiple servers that I have played on is they've almost always got a giant library that has every villager trade as far as enchants that you could think of in one central location. Well, if they split it up into all these different biomes so that the different biome villagers have a little bit more interesting use to them, like serve an actual purpose for having a particular type, well, I don't see that as a win. I see that as more of a pain in the butt that's just going to cause more grindy behavior from players. And Minecraft is one of those games where it is kind of grindy to an extent, but at the same time, it's not an explorer's dream. Uh, Minecraft itself does not have a lot of interesting things to go out and find. Like the amount of loot in this game that is actually worth finding is negligible. This isn't Terraria where you can go off and find like multiple different items and pieces for recipes and get different weapons and tools. I mean, the weapons and tools in this game are very bare bones basic. Like it's actually to the point where the weapons, armor, and tools are very boring. And with the advent of netherite armor, where they tried to do something different, it's actually even more annoying, especially considering that they went and changed that by forcing you to have to get an upgrade item in order to upgrade to netherite armor, instead of just simply doing the exact same recipe that is the same across all different types of armor and tools for netherite. Instead, you have to upgrade diamond. So I don't really like that mechanic, and this just further illustrates the lack of actual like really smart thinking. This is really dumb. Splitting up all of these into different biomes just does not work. Okay, there is one aspect of villager trading for enchanted books right now that I do not like, and it's broken. They need to fix that before they do this. And this setup right here actually makes the problem worse. Okay, so what am I talking about? What is actually worse with this kind of setup? We're not going to go through and look at all of these just yet to show you what they've put in where, because some of them do make sense, others don't make any sense whatsoever, and then some of them I'm like, why is that even there? For instance, they have the curses in this mix. Why? Why? Like, somebody make that make sense to me. Why would you have the curses split up into the biomes just like the rest of them? That just flat out does not make any sense to me. Okay, so the first major problem that this system makes even worse, and this is something that they need to fix in the base form of enchanted book trading, and that is librarians getting multiple of the exact same enchant, regardless of level. I don't like that. It's a pain in the butt, and it's simply lazy that they didn't make it to where there's some kind of check on the coding where if the librarian already has a specific enchantment, it needs to check and say, okay, it's got that enchantment, we can't give that again, let's give it something else. And by splitting up all the enchants into biome related librarians, they've actually made that problem worse. And as you can see right here, this guy right here has two different Bane of arthropods in enchants. So he's got the level 1 and he's got the level 4. Um, and then protection is their master rank enchant, which is kind of whoop-de-doo. Why would you make protection the master rank? We'll get into the actual level of the enchants here in a bit. But yeah, so that's something they've needed to fix. It's something that has existed for a while where they can have multiple of the exact same enchant. So instead of doing this whole biome thing, they need to fix that first. And again, because of this split, they're actually making the problem of having the same enchant worse. because it's a heck of a lot more likely to happen. Of the 5 villagers here that I put together, only one of them has different enchanted books all the way across. So this guy here not only has punch twice, but he has punch one twice. So you can see here he's got punch one, that's 17 emeralds and a book, and then he's got punch one again for 12 emeralds and a book. Okay, first off, why are these two priced differently if it's the exact same enchant? Second off, why does he have the same enchant? Like, this isn't even different levels, it's exactly the same thing. Like fix this before you start doing weird things. Now, over here, we got the same kind of deal where we've got Smite 5. Okay, so we haven't spoken about the levels of enchants yet, but this has Smite 5. That should not be possible according to their new system. Their new system makes it to where the highest you should get of any enchant is level 3. Clearly that is not working correctly because some of these on the plains biome, we do have higher than level 3, but across all of these, you should never get higher than level 3. Okay, that has a problem in and of itself, wherein you've got a couple of them that don't even get to level 4 or level 5, such as Punch and Fortune. Fortune only goes up to rank 3, Punch only goes to rank 2. Okay, so the max that any of them can go is 3. So you would think, based on that, that the highest you would be able to get in Fortune is 3. Well, no. The highest you can get in Fortune is rank 2. So you're going to have to buy 2 of these books and then combine them in order to get rank 3. That's another thing that I really don't like. If you're going to set the highest rank to rank 3, that needs to be across the board. And the fact that this gets nerfed down to a rank 2 and we don't even have a rank 3 for Punch, like, why? I don't like that mechanic at all. Considering how random it is to even get some of these, I don't see why this is a necessary change. Now, a lot of those big influencers that think they're so big brain are like, oh, this is a great idea, but they can't even state why it's a good idea. Other than they feel like the gameplay is stale. And I'm like, you do realize how much of a pain it is going to be to get all of these. First off, you're going to have to go and 2 of these you're going to have to build a village there, breed villagers until you get that biome specific villager, and then hopefully get the enchants from there, and then transport them back to a central location. Again, like, part of the problem there is, first off, Minecraft is not really known for exploration. There's not a whole lot in Minecraft to go see, okay? There's not a whole lot to go out there and find. I mean, this is not a loot heavy game where you got really cool things that you could possibly get. It's very, very basic and bland in that kind of aspect. The other problem there is it's just that's a giant waste of time that is not necessary, especially considering in most servers they have a server boundary. And depending on the size of that particular server, I have played on some that are kind of small to the point where certain biomes weren't even available. If this kind of thing happens on a server, then you may be just out of luck. Like, if the swamp biome is literally 2 blocks out that way past the border wall, then you're never going to get the enchants that come from the swamp. And that could be the same for any of these. Now, some of these are more common than others. Like, the chances of you not having a plains biome is very, very slim. I'd say the ones that is very, very likely that you wouldn't have is possibly the jungle and the snow biome. Now, maybe Savannah. I've never really seen a server where the Savannah was inaccessible, but I have seen one where the jungle was not accessible, and the snow biome is still fairly new. I haven't played on a server since that became an actual thing, so I could see that one being a potential loss. So the enchants that come from these two places, you just wouldn't be able to get. Now, on top of that, with the changes to the enchantments and everything, the other reason, like the fourth reason that I really don't like that is we do have two enchants that you can't even get through any natural means other than getting lucky in looting them or building a huge piglin trading contraption. So getting soul speed kind of not important. That's one of those enchants that is just kind of like whoop-de-doo. Mostly because as you are actually using the soul speed, it is damaging your boots for a speed increase. So eventually those boots will break if you aren't paying attention. And other than a movement speed bonus, I really don't see the soul speed one as even worth it. It's kind of like the curses. Why would you even bother? Uh, quite honestly, why would you even bother? Because if you got a really long path that you're using soul sand and soul speed for, like you're gonna have to repair those boots at some point, and it just seems like more of a hassle than it's actually worth. So I'm not a big fan of that. Swift sneak is probably the better enchant of the two, though it is 100% more deadly to try and get. Like, it is far more interesting to try and get the Swift Sneak enchant than it is the Soul Speed. Now, with the Swift Sneak, I don't even really care about the sneaking part of it. Um, what I actually care about, and I typically have some in my inventory. We are in a different snapshot now that I think about it, so I'm not going to worry about that. But typically, I have that and that alone on a pair of pants just so I can build a little bit faster. It's not about the actual sneaking part of it, it's about the bonus speed it gets for when I'm building. And you know how it is. If you've played Minecraft any time, you're always sneaking and holding down so you can go across ledges very easily and do this kind of thing. So Swift Sneak is one of those that I do really like. I enjoyed it, and it works really well for things other than what it is actually intended for. And it's mostly intended to be able to allow you to get through the deep, dark ruins a little bit faster and sneak around all the skulk sensors. Well, it actually works much better as a builder's enchant. Especially considering that once you've gone through a deep, dark ruin, like, you're probably not going to go to another one ever again. Like, seriously, you're not. Unless you've lost your enchanted armor that has your swift sneak, you're not going to have a need to ever go back to another one. There is nothing down there worth collecting. There's no kind of resource that is worth uh, stockpiling. That's not exactly what I mean. I mean, I do collect a lot of skulk, but what I mean is for me to collect a lot of skulk, I don't need to be down in the deep dark. I can do that somewhere else where it's a lot safer and I don't have to worry about the warden. And the warden itself is kind of pointless. Other than just being a big bad scary thing, it's it's pretty pointless. It doesn't have any kind of drop worth anything, so killing it really isn't even an option. This it's not the point of the thing. Um, the warden is effectively Mojang's nemesis. And by nemesis, what I'm talking about is Resident Evil 3, the big bad creature nemesis. You're not really meant to kill it, it's just meant to scare the living daylights out of you as it chases you around. That's really the point of that thing. So, yeah, the Swift Sneak, there's not. Once you've got Swift Sneak 3, there's no real reason in getting that. And you can't even. That's the only way you can get those two. You can't get them from an enchanting table. Not to mention, those are not the only two that you cannot get from an enchanting table. You also cannot get mending from an enchanting table. And I do believe you can't get either of the curses either from the enchanting table. Um, really, if they are intent on doing this, which I highly suggest they stay away from and find a different method in changing up the librarians, they need to add both or they need to add mending, Swift Sneak, and Soul Speed to the possible enchants that you can get from the enchanting table. I mean, after all, it is completely random. Now, the problem I do have with that is you can cheese it a little bit by bringing a whole bunch of books to it. And say we want to get Swift Sneak on our pants. We can put our pants in there. If we don't see it pop up, we can put a book in there, enchant the book, put the pants back in there, and do this cycle of swapping whatever item we are trying to enchant out for a book in order to get the enchant to show up that we want. Doesn't mean that the other enchants that are going to be with it are going to be worth it, or if there even is other enchants. But the point is there that we really, if they are going to make massive changes to it, then they need to make it to where it makes sense. Like having these three enchants added to the possible random enchants you could roll in an enchanting table would make sense alongside this, because after all, who is enchanting these to begin with? So the librarian, and specifically, I believe it's the snow librarian. Nope, it's the swamp librarian, has the mending. So the librarians are the ones creating the mending, but who's creating Swift Sneak? Who's creating Soul Speed? Well, Soul Speed is effectively being created by the piglins, even though none of them are enchanters, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's essentially what they're saying there. But I definitely feel like they could do that, and I would also get rid of the curses. Yeah, remove the curses from this list. I don't remember which ones had the curses. So let's see, that's got flames, Depth Strider, I think looting, Aquafinity, Frostwalker is a snow, knockback, Curse of Binding is in the savannah. Okay, get rid of that, and possibly, I don't know, have the yeah, have the soul speed there, and then the other one, Curse of Vanishing, I think was over here. Yeah, it's in the swamp, right there in the bottom. Remove that one from there, and then possibly put the Swift Sneak on that one. The other thing I would say is that they've got what feels like is supposed to be the more important enchants in the very last spot, and I don't like how they broke those up either, especially considering that they have projectile protection and protection as two of the last ones that you can get. But fire protection, which is way more important, is in the common section. You can see it right there. It's in the common section, so it's more likely to get this one, whereas we go over here to the planes, protection is the rare master level one. And all these master level ones, it's always going to be this. Always. Okay. And then these are potentially the ones you may or may not get. What? So I'm always going to get Silk Touch on that. I'm always going to get a Mending. I'm always going to get a Fortune. It's like, why? Why? Why do you have the more rare and actually usable ones be the guarantees, on them, which does and does not make sense. On one side, yeah, this is the one that you want, and you're always frustrated when you don't get it. But at the same time, it's like if this is guaranteed, then all I need to do is make one librarian in that specific biome. So like in order to get mending, all I gotta do is make one librarian in a swamp, level it up to master, and boom, I've got mending, regardless of the cost. If I want fortune, all I gotta do is make one librarian in a taiga and level it up to master. Boom, I've got fortune. But some of these others you may or may not get, and some of them are ones that I would say are kind of worthless or really good. Blast protection, I've never used blast protection at all. Fire aspect has its places. Flame I almost always use, and that's the taiga ones. The swamp, of course, we already mentioned it's mending, and then it's depth strider. What? What? Why is depth strider even in the swamp? That makes no sense. Respiration also in the swamp. Why? That doesn't make any sense. And then Curse of Vanishing. I don't know why Curse of Vanishing is even on that list. Okay, in the snow biome, we got Silk Touch is the rare guaranteed. The master level guaranteed one. And then we got Aqua Affinity. Excuse me? Why? Why are the three things that have to do with water in spots that really don't have anything to do with water? Yes, the swamps do have a lot of water in there, but it's not an area that you really need that for. Especially, well, maybe with the swamp if you're getting a bunch of clay, but it's it honestly hurts me to try and think of their reasoning for why they would split these up and split them up the way they do. I don't think this is necessary, and it's just utter stupidity on trying to come up with some kind of mechanic to change up this for whatever reason. If they think the gameplay is stale, or if they're agreeing with all the stupid influencer that thinks the gameplay is stale. Either way, it's bad choices. And then in the snow, we've also got looting. Why is looting in the snow? There's nothing in the snow biome that's worth looting. That makes zero sense. Frostwalker is probably the only one here that makes sense. Now, it's arguable that Silk Touch does make sense, but it's a snow biome. We're not talking about ice spike biomes. It's a snow biome. More than likely, you're going to be collecting your ice from an ice spike biome or from some kind of contraption that makes it, not from a snow biome. Snow biome, you're most likely looking for powdered snow and goats. Why? Give me a good reason why this even makes sense. The only one on this list that I somewhat even agree with is Frostwalker. And Frostwalker is one of those that I don't even know why you would use it because it's not that usable. It's really cool early game, allowing you to walk across rivers. But let's be honest, how often are you actually going to have that early game? Like, this is one of the enchants that is just like, whoop-de-doo. Like, why is this even in the game? I will never understand the Frostwalker enchant. It's not even that important or that useful. Okay, moving on to Savannah. So Savannah, we got Sharpness 3. Okay. Sharpness 3. Okay. Alright, let's see. What else is in the Savannah? We got Knockback. Knockback in the savannah. Okay, I could kind of see that because you're in an open area. It's more likely that a lot of mobs are going to be spawning around you, so you can like knock them away from you as you're trying to get. Yeah, but you still got to get into the savannah, get a librarian, and hopefully get this particular enchant. Now, this is one of those enchants I usually don't see players actually using in survival. You see a lot of it in PvP games, but not in survival. There are some that do use it, but it is very uncommon that you will see knockback being used in survival. Curse of Binding, why? Just get rid of that Curse of Binding. Have that be like a random. The only way we should find Curse of Binding, period, is if it's on a piece of loot in a chest. We should not have access to binding and vanishing at all. And part of my reasoning for this is there are a few servers that I have played on that for that particular game, don't misunderstand this, or that particular mod, they have death turned off. So the player physically cannot die. Okay? And most of the time this has been for Pixelmon packs. So, yeah. But the problem with Curse of Binding, and why I think we shouldn't even have access to be able to even use this enchant, is there are malicious people out there that will take this Curse of Binding, put it on a pumpkin, and then hide some kind of redstone contraption that forces the Curse of Binding pumpkin onto a player's head. Okay, the first and only fix I can think of for this, for Mojang to actually implement, is to remove the ability of the player to even get a hold of a Curse of Binding enchanted book. Like, just remove the ability for us to even get that. Same goes for Curse of Vanishing. The only way we should find either one of these curses is if it's already on a piece of loot in a chest. And that's the only way we should ever see that. We should not have access to this in a enchanted book format. Moving on, Plains biome. So our special master level enchant is just bare bones basic protection. Why? This is not. This is. I can't even comprehend the stupidity that went into thinking, hey, let's make the master level enchant for the Plains librarian protection. That's a great idea. Like, there's so many different enchants that could possibly be that. Like Punch. Punch would be good, or Smite. I see a lot of players using Smite. Why isn't Smite the master level one? Especially considering that Smite has an on the current setup, which I think needs to stay. Let's reiterate that. The whole reason I'm doing this is because I think this change to the way we get enchants is terrible, and we don't need this. We don't want this. But I've actually seen protection on librarians more than I have Smite. So if they are going to go through with this, first things first, I would say remove protection and give us a guaranteed Smite. That's what we really need. The other enchants we have here are Punch and Bane of Arthropods. Okay, I don't see anybody hardly ever use Bane of Arthropods. The only time I've even heard of them even slightly using this is for spider grinding XP farms. Spider XP farms. And even then, it's a sword that usually stays with the XP farm. It's not something players are running around with 100% of the time. So, yeah, I don't whoop-de-doo on that one. Honestly, I feel like this one possibly could be moved over to the Savannah. And we did skip over the fact that Sweeping Edge is in Savannah, but yeah, I think the Bane of Arthropods could be moved over to the Savannah. That would make a little more sense. But yeah, that's just my thought on that. Okay, up next we got Jungle. So Jungle is the one, first and foremost, Unbreaking 3. Why? Why is Unbreaking 3 in the Jungle? That really doesn't make much sense to me. The only thing I can think of for why this is a guaranteed master level book is the whole idea of you are having to chop your way through the jungle and you're going to need a tool that's going to last you long enough. That's the only logical explanation I can think of why that's there. As for the other ones, We have feather falling. Okay, yeah, maybe because it does have the biggest, some of the biggest trees in the game, so having it in this biome kind of makes sense, especially considering that there are vines everywhere and you can climb up the trees a little bit easier than pretty much any other biome, though that's kind of not correct simply because of how vines grow and work. Like, you're never going to find a full set of vines all the way up the tree. Never. That never happens. Um, Projectile protection, yeah, I can kind of see that because the jungle temple does have dart traps there. My biggest problem with that is, jungle temples are just super rare, and having that one there just, whoop de doo. Power, power. Why do we have a bow? Why do we have a bow enchant in a jungle? Okay, first off, the jungle is super dense. Like, trying to use a bow in there, especially if you're trying to hit a creeper, is not as easy as it sounds. Personally, I would rather have a sword. So the idea of having power on a bow in a jungle, I mean, it's doable, but logically, it doesn't make sense to me. I would say take the power, and if we are going to move these around and get rid of the Curse of Binding and then move the Bane of Orthopods, I'd say move power over here. So we got power and punch in one vendor. Um, that's the only kind of logic I could see there. Just move that over. Um, but still, it still just doesn't work. Like, the concept there is just a little bit vague and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, let's move on to deserts. So you'll see that our master level enchant for deserts is efficiency. Efficiency. Okay. I guess because you're doing a lot of digging and you want to be a little bit faster at it. I don't. That's really the only reasoning I can think for why they would put efficiency here as the master level enchant. The other things we have over here are fire protection. Um, yeah, I can kind of see fire protection being needed there, but this is one of those where I'm like, why is fire protection not the master level one? It would make more sense to me if fire protection were the master level one and not efficiency. Efficiency should be one of the common ones. Um, Thorns. Thorns. Does anybody even use thorns? Like, seriously. Does anybody use thorns? Like, leave a comment down below. Does anybody use thorns? Like, I have never seen anybody use thorns. Unless it's in some kind of PvP arena setup. Nobody uses this. It's probably the most worthless enchant besides Bane of Arthropods. Even though Bane of Arthropods does have a particular use with spider XP farms. Thorns, there's no point in having thorns. There really isn't. If we are moving these around, thorns to me would actually make a little more sense in the jungle. So move the thorns from from the desert over to jungle. I mean, there are no thorns in the jungle. Like, if we really wanted to get picky on this, thorns should probably be over in the taiga where we have berry bushes. That would make more sense to me. Now, I'm not saying that I want those kinds of changes because I don't want this system at all. Like, this is dumb. I don't want this at all. This makes literally no sense because if we're changing up all of the librarians to where they only have a specific enchant in a specific biome, then we need to change up the farmers, so they can only farm specific things in specific biomes. So, like a plains, they can only get carrots or potatoes. Taiga, they can only get, I don't know, carrots or beets. Jungle, they can actually farm watermelon and stuff like that. But you see what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to change up the librarians, then you need to change up the others too. And we're starting to get into really stupid things here. And if we're doing those two, then we need to change up the blacksmiths. And I don't even know where to begin on changing up the blacksmiths to be in line with this stupidity. Like what would you even do? Like have the blacksmith sell uh, gear that is enchanted with these possibilities? Like what would be the point in that? Same for armor smith. So if you got an armor smith out in the desert, there's a high likelihood that it has fire protection on it. Or if you have it in a jungle, there's a high possibility that the armor smith's armor has projectile protection. But you see what I'm saying there. This setup, this change that they are toying with, just isn't good. It's not a good idea. It's not a good plan. It's terrible. And I think what they really need to focus on first and foremost is making it to where we don't have multiple enchanted books on one librarian. That's the first major change that they need to do. Forget this system, scrap that system completely. Start working on making sure that our trades do not duplicate. We don't want to see we don't want to see our trades having duplicates to where we're trading the exact same thing like 2 times in a row. I know I've said that multiple times in a row, not making any sense, but yeah. I don't want to see a librarian having 2 different punch trades or 2 different smite trades or 2 different mending trades. They need to have access to all the different types, and they also need to have uh, they need to not duplicate. Like how many times have we just said that? Like, have I got the point across where we don't want them selling the same thing twice? Like fix that instead of giving us this garbage. The other problem I have with this kind of garbage, and you very, very rarely ever see anybody use the villager mechanic so that they have special villagers for their area. Um, I know that Stress Monster at the early stages of Hermitcraft Season 9 was getting on to Exuma for not making sure that he had the villagers being bred inside the swamp so that they had the swamp villagers. And that's been about it. Everybody else has just used villagers wherever they are at, regardless of their type. So honestly, people don't really care about what the villagers look like. Now, in my city, I actually made sure that I got to get villagers in a taiga because of the villager types that are available, the taiga villagers are the closest to looking like a steampunk kind of style. And that is exactly what I was going for with my city and everything that we do need to eventually get back to working on. But yeah, I feel like I've rambled on long enough about this. I hope you guys can feel my passion about why I think this is a horrible idea. And honestly, they need to come up with something else. And why I also think that this bundle is a horrible idea. And I think that influencers and YouTubers just need to get over it and shut up. Like 100%, I mean that. Like get over it. Start dealing with your inventory management and shut up. Quit whining to Mojang about inventory management and telling them they need to do something. It's not on them to do something like that. That's not their responsibility. Their responsibility is just to give us new things and entertainment, not fix your blunders. But anyway, if you guys have a comment for me, leave it down below. If you like what I had to say here, which I imagine a lot of you don't, please leave a like. And if you love what I've been doing here on YouTube, think about subscribing. And I will see you guys in the next video, whatever that ends up being. Bye.
You guys are idiots.